Otoritas Jasa Keuangan dalam perannya sebagai Ketua ASEAN Capital Market Forum atau ACMF 2023 optimis negara ASEAN dapat menjadi kawasan ekonomi dengan pertumbuhan yang cepat, inklusif, dan berkelanjutan.
Dan kini kita akan langsung menuju ke ASEAN Capital Market Forum yang diselenggarakan di Bali.
And addressing the adverse consequences of the economic policies of number of major trading partners. However, while ASEAN managed to mitigate a number of these unprecedented challenges, we must be able to continue to develop the strength of our economies. While we can develop various financing instruments, we need an industrial sector that is vibrant and can underpin and accelerate growth. In the ASEAN context, one of the means of achieving this is to invest increasingly in value added. We must exploit our natural resources and move downstream into value added from mineral to natural resources. We can no longer afford to be positioned as primary raw material suppliers with value being added elsewhere. I mention this because I will now turn into sustainability, and I wish to stress that achieving a green economy depends on strong economic growth, and in turn, this depends on a vibrant industrial sector. And it is increasingly clear that environmental objectives are unlikely to be achieved unless the economic and social aspirations of our peoples are met. In this respect, the alleviation of poverty is critical. Dear colleagues and participants, ASEAN member countries have made substantial commitments to promote sustainable development and address the socio-environmental risks associated with climate change in alignment with the goals outlined in the Paris Agreement. In the support of commitment made, ACMF provided the roadmap for ASEAN sustainable capital markets in 2019 as a guideline to enhance sustainability across the region. It reinforces the region's commitment to the global climate agenda while addressing the unique challenges and opportunities specific to Southeast Asia's sustainable development and financial markets. It is pleasing to note that while aligning with international commitments, ACMF has also encouraged a flexible approach by adapting the realities of ASEAN in general, in addition to the context of each individual member. I congratulated, therefore, the issuance of the ASEAN Taxonomy for Sustainable Finance version 2 earlier this year, because it was the first international or regional taxonomy in the world that subscribed the idea of phasing out early a coal-based power plant as a green project. This is a leadership type which is needed by ASEAN to show the world and fellow developing countries and emerging economies how we should integrate and promote the climate and energy transition together with the need and relevance of socio-economic progress of developing countries. At the same time, ACMF has been promoting the issuance of green, social, and sustainability bonds with the use of proceed clauses. As the global focus shifts toward achieving the target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to net zero, the focus of the ACMF is centered on how ASEAN capital markets can facilitate transition financing by encouraging the issuance of sustainability-linked bonds as performance-based instruments. And as we are approaching the deadline for achieving our nationally determined contribution, the NDC, and net zero target, ACMF must assume a leadership role in this area as well. However, it is crucial again to ensure that these transformation initiatives align with a reasonable and a progressive timetable, balancing environmental and social aspects with economic growth. Distinguished participants, while we are focusing on emission targets within the context of the Paris Accord, the prerequisite for meeting these targets is promote a strong economic and social fabric. And in this respect, I believe that the United Nations SDGs 2030 is of equal importance to the Paris Accord, and that the objectives set out in both cannot be achieved without the other. In terms of sustainable financing, we may well need to adjust our various instruments for a green economy to value those industries that generate, for example, significant employment or are essential in the supply chain of sustainability, such as the electric car vehicle industry. I would also like to remind us in using a realistic transition time frame, and the need to strategize the transition. In the case of ASEAN and Indonesia, we are still very much in emerging and developing economies, and our industries are still very much geared to fossil fuels. Our industries need to generate employment opportunities and create the wealth to generate the taxes that allow for government policies to be developed to include those associated not only with addressing climate change, but also the alleviation of poverty. In other words, a vibrant industrial sector is not detrimental to the achieving of environmental objectives. It is essential, and our private sector should be geared not only to meeting the goals of NJC under the Paris Accord, but also at the same time encouraged to meet the UN SDGs goals by 2030. Having laid out general number of general issues, allow me to share with you Indonesia's progress to support the transition financing. Indonesia holds a strong commitment to promoting sustainable finance to facilitate a transition to a low-carbon economy. The Financial Sector Omnibus Law, enacted in January 2023, mandates financing the transition from carbon-intensive to carbon-neutral activities. Achieving a sustainable, inclusive, and just transition requires stakeholders' participation and international cooperation. In order to ensure this, and as I have previously mentioned, we need to recognize the pivotal role that industries play, for example, adding value to the economy. This is the enhancement of the Indonesian green taxonomy that we are now revising in the form of the Indonesia Sustainable Taxonomy version 1, which will cover all the NDC sector in the next development, but for the current stage, we will focus on the energy sector. The enhancement seeks to confer value to those industries that are instrumental to meeting to the SDGs 2030. In conclusion, let me emphasize key messages that should resonate with all of us. First, within the context of Indonesia chairmanship in ASEAN and now just being transferred to Laos, seen as ASEAN epicentrum of growth, it is evident that ASEAN region holds an important position on the global stage. ASEAN must actively engage in and contribute to the global transition agenda. ASEAN Capital Market and ACMF, as a grouping of ASEAN capital market regulators, should continue to play a key role in shaping this transition. Second, as we continue our journey towards sustainability, the ACMF's initiatives will maintain their alignment with ASEAN commitments within the Paris Accord and the UN SDG 2030, and dovetail these commitments to the particular context of ASEAN. Third, success in these initiatives rely heavily on partnership and collaboration, working together with various stakeholders, including fellow regulators, multilateral development banks like the IDB, our industries, non-governmental organizations, market participants, and other relevant entities is essential to achieve the desired outcomes. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hope the ACMF conference today is more than just another conference. It is a milestone, a reflection of our collective commitment and a showcase of our progress and strong leadership. It is a testament to what we can achieve when ASEAN comes together to build a more sustainable future for our region. I look forward to the exchange of views and discussions among our distinguished speakers today and with all of you participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bapak Mahendra Siregar. Ladies and gentlemen, what an insightful session that we have with Bapak Mahendra Siregar. And ladies and gentlemen, as earlier we have witnessed the official launch of the significant milestones of the ASEAN in 2023. So after having a short break later on, we will continue by also listening to a short
Ya, pemirsa, baru saja kita simak opening speech ataupun opening remarks yang disampaikan oleh Mahendra Siregar, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners dari OJK, dan beberapa hal yang kemudian perlu diketahui terkait dengan agenda dari acara ASEAN Capital Market Forum 2023 yang diadakan di Bali. Di antaranya adalah nanti akan ada sesi panel yang membahas mengenai ASEAN Taxonomy Version 2 and Financing Transition in ASEAN. Kemudian juga nanti akan ada fireside chat mengenai ASEAN Transition Finance Guidelines, dan juga nanti akan ada voluntary carbon market state of development and the importance of carbon offsetting disclosure, dan juga ada revised ASEAN Corporate Governance Scorecard atau ACGS. Agendanya cukup padat begitu ya. Ini agendanya akan berlangsung dari pagi hari ini sampai dengan jam 5 sore, dan kemudian yang juga cukup menarik adalah terkait dengan bursa karbon sendiri. Ini juga akan dibahas dalam forum ASEAN Capital Markets Forum 2023.
Ya, ASEAN Capital Market Forum atau ACMF 2023 di hari pertama berjalan lancar dan sukses. Dan di hari kedua ini, ACMF 2023 di Bali akan fokus membahas penguatan sistem keuangan berkelanjutan. Lantas, bagaimana jalannya ACMF yang dipimpin Otoritas Jasa Keuangan di hari kedua ini? Kita akan langsung saja simak informasi berikut ini.
Instrumen keuangan terus didorong berkelanjutan dan menciptakan aktivitas pasar modal yang inklusif dan berkesinambungan di kawasan Asia Tenggara. Dalam forum ASEAN Capital Market 2023 di Bali, Otoritas Jasa Keuangan selaku Ketua ACMF 2023 ini terus mendorong kolaborasi mewujudkan harmonisasi pasar modal se-ASEAN. Kepala Eksekutif Pengawas Pasar Modal, Keuangan Derivatif dan Bursa Karbon OJK Inarno Jayadi optimis bahwa ACMF sebagai kelompok regulator pasar modal dapat berkontribusi dalam akses transisi ekonomi berkelanjutan serta pasar global yang positif.
Akan chair meeting ya, semua head of delegation dari ASEAN, semua ada 10 negara berkumpul di sini, dan ini tujuan utamanya adalah bagaimana mengharmonisasi regulasi di antara ASEAN dan juga harus align dengan ISSB standard for disclosure standard.
Di sisi lain, ASEAN Capital Market Forum di Bali ini, para negara ASEAN juga menekankan pentingnya fungsi jaringan pengawasan aset digital ACMF sebagai keketuaan baru dalam meningkatkan peran aset digital di pasar keuangan dan perdagangan. Dari Legian, Kabupaten Badung, Bali, Fajar Wayong, Heru Triyonato, Tim Liputan IDX Channel.